This training will demonstrate the project dashboards in the Statewide Environmental Project Tracker, the SWEP tool. We can access the project dashboards either through the button on the main overview page or by clicking on the menu, Project Dashboards. The dashboard overview page is accessible through the menu and shows us the available dashboards. Federal SWOT dashboards for Type 2 CEs, EA, or EIS, the State SWOT dashboard, and executive dashboards including the State Executive Dashboard and the NEPA Assignment Dashboard. The State Executive Dashboard includes projects with a SEER class of action, and NEPA Assignment Dashboard includes those with other classes of action administered by the Office of Environmental Management. To demonstrate the dashboards, I'm going to use the Type 2 CE dashboard, accessible here under Federal SWOT Dashboard, or under the Federal SWOT Dashboard menu as Type 2 CE. The Federal SWOT Dashboard loads with Type 2 categorical exclusion data. If I wanted to switch to EA or EIS data, I would just need to click either of these buttons, and the same dashboard would reload with information with those classes of action. Note I've got the Filter tab active now, but there's also the Highlight, Layout, Export, and Help tabs. We'll talk about those shortly. Just below the Filter tab, we see this message. Project schedule information is from a PSM export file, and then the date of the file, usually the morning of the day that we're looking at it, not a live connection to the PSM database. We can click on more information to find out what time the file was exported, how many records were processed, inserted, deleted, or updated, and the number of records with other types of updates in them. To hide this information, we click the Less Info link. We talked about these three buttons to filter by class of action in the Filter tab. We can also filter by district in the Filter tab. When we click the down arrow, we see checkboxes for each district, and we can uncheck the box to exclude those from the data we're looking at. I'll uncheck District 1, and you can see all the District 1 projects have disappeared. When I check it again, the projects return. The district column also allows us to filter by district in the same way. If we click on the filter arrow, we see the same selection here, and we can make the same choices. In addition, we can sort by district. In fact, the default sorting for the dashboard is in ascending order by district, indicated with this upward pointing arrow. If I click on the column heading, district, you see the arrow is now pointing down and the order is changed, so now the highest number district is at the top and they're in descending order. This is true for all of the column headings. I can click on the column heading to reorder the records within the dashboard. I can also click on the filter arrow in fiscal year and choose which fiscal years to include. In item segment and item description, you see that we have a magnifying glass. Rather than a simple filter, this is a search tool. I can begin typing the FM number for any project, and autocomplete shows me the matching projects. From this list, I can select the one I want to focus on. Within the item segment column, you see these two links, PSM and PSEE. These are links to information on the DOT intranet. If you're connected to the intranet, you can click these links to see additional information. Here's PSM data for the project we've selected. Here's PSEE data for the project we've selected also. If we want to go back to viewing all of our records, we can click on the search icon again, click Clear, and our full dashboard is restored. I'll demonstrate filtering on item description as well. Notice that I only need a partial match to generate a selection list from which to choose a single project that I can focus on. The rest of these columns are identified with PSM codes. The most important of these is the class of action start. Because we're on the Type 2 CE dashboard, the Type 2 CE start column is the one we're looking at. There are a couple things going on here. We see some color coding and we see some different types of text. These are explained in the key and the notes at the bottom of the screen. When I scroll down, we can see notes 1 through 6, and note number 6 tells us projected dates are shown in italicized text. Actual dates are shown in normal text followed by the letter A. So in this column, the Type 2 CE start, the date is in regular text and is followed by the letter day, the actual date that the Type 2 CE was started. The next column contains a date in italics. a projected date. On the far right, we see the key that tells us the color coding. If a PSM actual date is on time or early, the box is shaded green. If it's behind by less than 2 weeks, the box is shaded yellow. And if it's behind by more than 2 weeks, then the box is shaded red. We saw some of each of these near the top of our dashboard. As these projects move further through the process, more of the PSM values will be populated. District notes are on the far right. Now let's look at some of those other tabs. We talked about the Filter tab. Next is the Highlight tab. On the Highlight tab, we see highlight changes since and a date. The default value for this date is 2 weeks prior to the current date. If I check the checkbox, all values in the dashboard since that date are highlighted, and they also become links. I can click the link to view a history of the change log for that record. This tool allows me to quickly identify milestones in the recent past and the future, and then to focus on them by clicking on them and seeing the history of how that information came about. The next tab is the Layout tab. The Layout tab allows me to decide which columns to include in my dashboard. The default view is the Summary view. It has a limited number of columns. The Detailed view adds additional columns. Notice the red triangles in the upper right corner for some of these. When we hover on those cells, we see notes, similar to how notes are done in an Excel spreadsheet. Here we see many of our PSM codes broken out in projected and actual dates. Notice, for example, this one, where the public hearing was scheduled for 2016, but was actually performed in 2014. The last updated column lets us know how recently this information was updated. The next view is Presentation view. This is a more streamlined look at our data. It's designed to fit on a single page and be used for presentations. Our Filter tab has disappeared from the top. The way we exit is at the very bottom, Exit Presentation view. Notice also the PDF and Excel links. These allow us to export this dashboard directly to a PDF document or an Excel file. When we exit Presentation view, we automatically go back to Summary view. We can also customize which columns we want to include by selecting from the drop-down list. Codes for the selected class of action, codes for the selected class of action plus project-specific codes, all codes that have data for the current shown items, default swept columns plus project specifics, or custom. We can choose custom by clicking on the button and selecting the PSM codes that we want to include from the available checkboxes. Once we've got our dashboard looking the way we want it, we can click on the Export tab and choose PDF or Excel to export our file. Here's a PDF view of the current dashboard. And the same data in an Excel spreadsheet. The last tab is the Help tab. This tab includes links to training videos such as this one. To exit the dashboard, we can click on the hamburger icon, or we can use our breadcrumbs to go back. The state SWOT dashboard is very similar to the federal SWOT dashboard, but is only for projects with a class of action of SEER. The executive dashboards are very similar to the presentation view that we saw of the federal SWOT dashboard, one for SEER only class of action and one for the federal classes of action. If you have questions about the dashboards or any other information in the SWEP tool, you can go to the Help tab, scroll to the bottom, and find our contact information for the OEM Help Desk. You can reach us at swept@fla-etat.org or call us at 850-414-5334.